All right, everyone, get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into the world of Microsoft 365.
3, 2, 1.
Picture this. You're thinking about switching careers, maybe going into cloud computing.
Right.
Or maybe your company's going all in on Microsoft 365.
Yeah.
And you want to get ahead of the curve.
Right.
Well,
absolutely.
We're going to decode this whole ecosystem. But here's the thing. We're going to use something a little different today. We've got these practice questions and explanations straight from a Microsoft 365 Fundamentals exam prep guide. It's the MS-900 exam, if you want to look it up.
Oh, nice.
It's like learning by stealth. We're going to uncover how Microsoft 365 really works by cracking the code hidden in these exam questions.
I love that.
So
that's a really fun way to approach it.
It is. It's going to be fun.
And don't worry, if you're not already a tech expert, you don't need to be to follow along with us.
Exactly.
We're going to break down all the core concepts in a way that anyone can understand, whether you're a seasoned IT pro or you're just starting your cloud journey.
Okay. So let's jump right in with question 1 from the guide.
Yeah.
Right. It's all about the advantages of using a cloud-based solution like Microsoft 365.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it specifically calls out these 2 big advantages: automatic updates and scalability. But, before we get into those, I'm curious, for someone who's maybe never even encountered this cloud that everyone's always talking about, what does that even mean? What are we talking about when we say cloud?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people hear that term and they're like, what is the cloud?
Right.
In the simplest terms, think of it like this. The cloud is this giant network of super powerful computers, right? Or servers.
Sorry.
And they store and process information. It's like, instead of having all your software and data just sitting there on your own computer or on a company server in a back room somewhere, it all lives in these huge data centers managed by companies like Microsoft.
So instead of like owning a server, it's like renting space on someone else's much, much bigger server.
You got it. That's a perfect way to put it. And this whole renting model, it comes with some serious perks.
Oh, I like perks.
Right. So the first big perk is automatic updates. Remember the old days of manually installing software updates? Oh.
Yeah.
With Microsoft 365, Microsoft handles all that for you in the background.
Okay.
No more annoying pop-ups, no more downtime.
So that's a huge time saver.
Huge.
Okay. What about scalability? That's the other big thing the guide mentions.
Scalability is all about flexibility.
Okay.
So as your needs change, maybe you need more storage space, you need to add more user accounts.
Right.
You can easily scale your resources up or down in the cloud.
Okay.
It's almost like having an office space that magically expands or shrinks depending on how many people are working there.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Right.
And, the best part is there's no need to invest in a bunch of expensive hardware that might be outdated tomorrow.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So cloud computing takes a lot of the headache out of managing all this technology.
It does. It really does.
Which is probably why we see so many companies making the move.
Yeah.
But here's the big question that always comes up. What about security?
Right.
Because you're essentially trusting your data to someone else's systems.
Absolutely. That's a valid concern. And that's actually where question 2 from the guide comes into play.
Okay.
This one digs into something called multi-factor authentication, or MFA.
Okay.
And conditional access. These are 2 really important security features in Microsoft 365.
Okay, MFA. I think I've heard of that one.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes all these acronyms make my head spin.
Right.
Can you break it down for us?
Okay, so imagine this. You've got your front door, right?
Yeah.
The digital front door to your account.
Okay.
MFA is like adding an extra layer of protection on that door.
Okay.
So instead of just relying on a password,
Yeah.
which, let's face it, passwords can be stolen, they can be guessed.
Right.
MFA makes you prove it's really you by providing some additional verification.
Okay.
So that might be a code that gets sent to your phone, a fingerprint scan, maybe even facial recognition.
So even if someone gets their hands on your password, they still can't get in without that second factor.
Exactly. It makes it way harder for unauthorized users to access your accounts.
Got it.
And then conditional access, that takes it even a step further.
Oh.
Well, conditional access lets organizations set up very specific conditions for when someone's trying to get into some sensitive data. So, for example, let's say someone tries to log in from a device the system doesn't recognize.
Okay.
Or from a location that's unusual for them.
Yeah.
They might be required to go through that extra MFA step.
Oh, so it's like being extra cautious when the system senses something might be a little fishy.
Exactly. It adds that extra layer of security when the risk is higher.
I like it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's not just relying on a single password.
Yeah.
And the system's smart enough to know when to be extra cautious.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
That makes me feel better about security. All right. Let's move on to question 3. This one seems to shift gears a bit. It talks about something called cloud-based email hosting
Okay.
and something called Microsoft Exchange Online.
Right.
So before we dive in, remind me, what is cloud-based email hosting?
Okay, so remember those old school, bulky on-site email servers that companies used to have?
Right.
Exchange Online is like taking that entire system and just putting it in the cloud.
Okay, so instead of having all your email data sitting on a physical server in the office basement, it's all up in the cloud.
Exactly.
What are the advantages of that?
Well, the biggest one is freedom. You can access your email, your calendar, your contacts from anywhere.
Oh,
As long as you've got an internet connection, you're no longer tied to a specific computer or even the office network.
so it's like having your inbox in your pocket wherever you go.
Exactly.
Oh, I like that.
And there's another huge plus. Microsoft takes care of all the server maintenance and security for you.
Okay, so less for me to worry about. But doesn't that raise concerns about security? I mean, it sounds a little risky having all your emails floating around out there.
I understand that concern. But that's where Microsoft's really strong security features come in.
Okay.
Things like the MFA we talked about earlier.
Right.
They have incredibly strong security protocols in place to keep your data safe.
So it's about combining the convenience of the cloud with those really tough security measures to protect all that sensitive information.
Exactly. You got it.
All right, let's tackle question 4. This one dives into the world of Microsoft 365 plans.
Okay.
Which I know can be a little confusing
It can be.
because there's so many different options.
Right.
So this question asks us to pick the right plan for a hypothetical retail business.
Okay.
And it tells us this business needs Office apps, cloud storage, and security features, but they don't need those more complex compliance tools.
Gotcha.
So it's about finding that sweet spot between features and affordability, right? We
Somehow.
want to make sure they're not paying for things they don't need.
Exactly. And in this case, it sounds like Microsoft 365 Business Premium would be the perfect fit.
Okay, why is that?
Well, it includes all the essentials, the familiar Office apps like Word and Excel,
Right.
cloud storage with OneDrive and SharePoint,
Uh-huh.
and it has robust security features like Intune and Defender for Office 365.
Okay, so Business Premium is like the Goldilocks plan. Not too much, not too little.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. Trust right.
I like it. It's interesting how they have all these different tiers, though.
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of like choosing a phone plan, right? You don't want to pay for data you're never going to use.
that's a great analogy. It's all about finding the plan that aligns with your specific needs and budget.
Okay, so speaking of security questions, 5 and 6 introduce us to 2 more services. Microsoft Intune and Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager.
All right.
Okay, those names sound a little intimidating.
They do sound a little intense.
Can you break them down for us? What are these services all about?
Okay, so think of Intune like the device manager for your business. It gives IT admins the power to enforce security policies on all kinds of devices, laptops, smartphones, tablets, and it doesn't matter if they're company-owned or personal devices.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's all about making sure everyone is playing by the same security rules no matter what device they're using.
That's so important these days when everyone's working from everywhere.
Absolutely. And then you have Compliance Manager.
Okay.
Compliance Manager is like your guide to the world of data privacy regulations.
Which can be a bit of a maze.
It can be. There are a lot of twists and turns.
Yeah.
So in this digital age, data privacy is crucial. Regulations like GDPR, for example,
Right.
set strict rules for how companies are allowed to collect and handle personal information.
Okay, so there are a lot of rules to keep track of.
There are a lot. So Compliance Manager helps businesses stay on the right side of the law.
So it's like a digital compliance officer,
Exactly.
making sure you're ticking all the boxes.
You got it.
Okay. And it seems like Intune and Compliance Manager work together in a way.
They do. Intune focuses on securing the devices themselves,
Right.
while Compliance Manager makes sure your overall data handling practices are up to snuff.
Okay.
So they work together to create this secure and compliant environment.
It's like a 1-2 punch for data protection.
I like that.
Okay. It seems like Microsoft has really thought of everything when it comes to security.
They really have. They recognize that security has many layers.
Right.
It's not just about stopping hackers from getting in.
Uh-huh.
It's also about protecting data privacy and making sure you're following those all-important regulations.
That makes sense. All this talk about security makes me wonder about the types of threats that are actually out there.
Yeah.
What do we try to protect ourselves from?
Right.
And question 7 seems to address that. It brings up Microsoft Defender for Office 365
Okay.
and its role in protecting against things like phishing and ransomware.
Yes. Those are two of the biggest threats that businesses face these days.
So let's start with phishing. What is that
Yeah.
exactly?
Think of it like a deceptive email. It looks totally legitimate, right? But it's actually designed to steal your login credentials or trick you into downloading something malicious.
Oh, so it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly. It preys on people who might unknowingly click a bad link or open a dangerous attachment.
It's scary.
It is. And then you have ransomware, which is even scarier.
Sorry?
This is like a digital hostage situation. Hackers lock up your files and demand a ransom to release them.
That's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. So that's where Defender for Office 365 steps in.
Okay.
It's like your digital bodyguard.
Okay.
It scans emails for suspicious links, attachments, blocks malicious content, and it alerts you to potential threats.
So it's like a security shield.
Exactly. A very powerful shield.
That's reassuring. It's good to know there are tools out there fighting against these attacks.
There are. And they're constantly evolving to stay ahead of the bad guys.
Okay, good. All right, moving on to question 8. This one brings us back to core services and introduces Microsoft OneDrive. And this one's all about cloud storage and file sharing.
Yes. OneDrive is all about making your important files accessible from anywhere at any time.
Okay, so no more emailing files to yourself or carrying around those USB drives.
Exactly. It's all in the cloud, ready when you need it.
So I can access my files from my phone, my laptop, my tablet, no matter where I am.
As long as you have an internet connection, you're good to go.
And it's secure.
Yes. Microsoft has top-notch security measures in place to protect your data.
Okay, good, because that's always a concern when you're putting things in the cloud.
Absolutely. But OneDrive is very secure.
Okay, good. I'm starting to see how all these different services connect.
Yes, they all work together to create this comprehensive platform.
Okay. Now, question 9 takes us into the world of Microsoft Teams, which I feel like I've been hearing about constantly, especially since everyone started working remotely.
Yeah, Teams has become essential for so many organizations.
Okay, so the guide mentions secure messaging and video conferencing, but it seems like there's more to it than that.
There is a lot more. Teams? Teams is like the central hub for communication and collaboration.
Okay.
You can chat, video call, share files, manage tasks, and even integrate with all sorts of other apps.
So it's like a virtual office.
Exactly. It's where teams can connect, collaborate, and get things done.
And it's all happening in the cloud.
Yes, all in the cloud.
Okay, we're on the last question for this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
And question 10 brings up a topic that's a little unnerving and insider threats.
Yeah.
So it mentions Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Management
Okay.
and how it helps detect and mitigate those threats. What are we talking about when we say insider threats?
Well, it's important to remember that an insider threat doesn't always mean someone's intentionally trying to harm the company.
Okay.
Sometimes it's accidental. It could be an accidental data leak or just carelessness.
So like someone accidentally sending a confidential file to the wrong person.
Exactly. Or maybe someone leaves their laptop open in a public place.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Not good. So that's where insider risk management comes in. It helps organizations monitor user behavior to spot potential risks.
So it's like having a safety net to catch those mistakes before they turn into huge problems.
Exactly. It's about being proactive and protecting sensitive data.
And this isn't about spying on employees, right?
No, not at all. It's about creating a culture of security awareness and responsibility.
And thanks to this deep dive, our listeners are equipped with the knowledge to navigate this ever-changing landscape.
Absolutely. They're ready for whatever comes next.
That's a wrap on our Microsoft 365 deep dive. Until next time, happy cloud computing.